Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 15th episode of the most aptly named show on all of YouTube, Technical Difficulties. Today we have some pretty cool guests today, so let's bring in the squad. We have MSG, Dahlia, and my friend Aaron. So, hi, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Hey, good.
Doing well.
Doing great.
Everybody hear each other okay?
I can hear everyone.
Good. So, so today I thought we'd talk a bit about keyboards since, we're nerds. So, how have you found anything new, Dahlia, lately? Because you usually have some pretty cool finds that you seem to run across.
Okay, so I do have something that I was going to showcase on my channel, but I scrapped the whole video, so I guess I could show you guys.
Oh, excellent.
So,
an exclusive.
Yeah, totally. Basically, it is a custom artisan keycap case. So I'm in like this kind of private server, and we commissioned like our own like kind of like little logo on it. And let me show you guys really quick.
Sure.
So it is super heavy. It came with this really cool carrying case. And you can see like my fingerprints all over. It's embarrassing. But yeah, it looks super cool, and it's actually really heavy. I weighed it, and it's like 4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it comes in this cool like little
really
flippy
cool
thing. It reminds me of like, like the back when everyone used to use CDs and like you'd have them all like in a little pouch thing.
Yep, absolutely.
And this is the box itself. I have some of my keycaps in here, and it is made out of aluminum metal. So, and then the bottom of it, I hope my caps don't like, they're like moving, but there's like a brass weight, like this right here is made out of metal and brass and stuff, and it makes it weigh like 1,000,000 pounds. And then the lid of it is actually magnetic. So it has little magnets on each of those 4 corners. And
Magnets make everything better.
How do they work? And yeah.
What y'all got in there?
Ooh, a lot of stuff. Way too much, this is actually a really recent cap that I got my hands on. Hopefully it'll... Did it focus? Kind of.
Is that like a little space helmet?
Yeah, it's like a little astronaut. It's really cool.
That's really cool.
And it's like an aquamarine color, because the person who makes these was making the little helmets, or the little like visors, I guess, like in the color of each like what's it called? Birth month, I guess. So aquamarine was a month or so ago, or I don't remember, but yeah, it's just a little box.
That is a really cool little case.
Yeah.
Is that lid made of acrylic or glass?
It's made out of acrylic.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's made out of acrylic, and as you can see, it's all like all dirty and stuff. I've just been like really like fascinated at like opening it up and like arranging everything. So. But yeah, it's really cool. I ordered this back in, I want to say August, and it was supposed to be done in December, but things get backlogged, and I barely got it like 3 weeks ago. But worth the wait.
Really cool.
Yeah,
that looks really cool. Plus, you got a full collection there. I wonder if they would like stack. If there's like if you can stack them, that would be really cool.
That would be really cool.
Looks like that one's pretty much full already.
Yeah, I kind of need a second one. I would have liked it if it was just like a little bit deeper, because I have some keycaps that are SA profile, and they just like hit the top of the glass and you can't really close it. So yeah.
Okay.
But overall, pretty cool box. I would like to get my hands on another one.
Who made that?
It is by what's his name? Shuang. I think on Instagram he goes by Shuang Wu, but he's a Chinese hobbyist, and he's like in contact with like a bunch of vendors and stuff, and like a bunch of factories out there. And this is called the CC box. He did make a public group buy for it, but we got like our cool little logo and stuff engraved on it, so that's probably why it took a little longer. I don't know. But,
That's really cool.
Yeah, CC box.
You need to see if someone like Drop would pick something like that up.
Your logo is the wizard thing on the bottom, or that's a different one?
Yeah, it's the little wizard guy on the bottom.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. I liked it. I didn't know if that was your logo or the logo of the guy that made it.
Oh yeah, no, that's our little logo, and I just thought it was, really cool, and I totally looked forward to getting it, and it was worth it.
Yeah, well, it certainly seems. It's keep your preciouses safe.
I want to make like little like foam insert or something, like cut it out, and just so like the caps don't constantly rattle around and like move around. So I need to get on that. Yeah.
That looks really cool. So Aaron, do you have anything to show us? I know you've got quite a collection of keyboard goodies.
Yeah, I'm in the market for one of these like boxes now because I've got I've recently acquired a ton of like keycaps, and they're now just sitting loose on the filing cabinet next to my desk. So like that collection's been growing. I got this one from Drop a couple months ago. It is a
little fidget spinner.
Yeah, it is perfect for me. And I'm a follower of Tiny, who makes a lot of artisan keycaps, and I got the food collection. So we got the fries here. And then there's the little drink with actual and the straw actually is like movable. It'll move around.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's completely impractical. I'm not sure what key I'd use it for, but I also got the little hamburger here, which is super adorable.
That looks so detailed.
It is quite good, and it feels really nice too. And it's a nice height for like a modifier key or something, because I'm an ortholinear keyboard user, as you can see. And so one of the challenges with like having so many different keys on the bottom row is that my thumb needs to know which one is which. So I have been finding these artisan keycaps to be a really nice way to be able to like let my thumb tell them apart. So I'll usually put this where I put my command key.
It looks so cute. I love the key set.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm a fan of this one as well. I forget who made this one. I think it was Sailor HD or something.
Yeah, I totally forgot, but yeah.
I also ordered the DSA Magic Girl keycaps, but I think that's a different set. But I always kind of think of them as similar looking because they kind of have a similar aesthetic to them. But I got the dark DSA Magic Girl keycap set that I'm waiting for.
That one's really cute.
Our glorious leader has decided to join us.
Oh, it looks like he's also having technical difficulties.
Yeah, no, it's the name of the show. So.
Hey, Sonic. Sonic joined the chat.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Coming to us live from work, huh?
Live from a undisclosed location.
Ooh, spooky. So this is my friend Aaron, by the way. This is Boot Disc. JD's our glorious leader. And I hear that too, MSG.
I think there's something messed up with your sound.
Yeah, it's definitely Boot.
Yeah, you'll have to live with it. Laboratories are not quiet places. There's all kinds of machinery running here, so enjoy the ASMR.
Roll credits. Zach freaking says roll credits. So Aaron was showing us some of his little keycaps. I don't know if you've got anything else to.
Oh man, where do I begin? I've got a number of keyboards. So my journey into the mechanical keyboard started with I got a DOS keyboard in 2012, and that's kind of what got me into the the tactile like nature of these fun clicky keyboards. And over time, I've been gradually getting smaller and smaller in terms of the keyboard that I can tolerate. So my first foray into like going smaller was building this Alps 64 keyboard, which is a fun little kit. Basically, you can take I took the keys and switches from a donor Apple extended keyboard, and these use like an Alps switch, so they sound very nice. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but like,
yeah,
there is a lovely. It's like it's not clicky, but it is tactile, and it's got like a nice little bump, and it just like it feels lovely. I think these are orange switches. I don't want to take one of the keycaps off because Alps switches like hold on to their keycaps like they hang on for dear life. So prying them off takes an incredible amount of effort. But it's really fun. And so I started using like these, like, I guess it's like a 64% keyboard. I think the project is called Alps 64. And periodically, I believe it's on Geek Hack that they usually have group buys for the PCB for it. And then you can put it into like a poker case or something like that. Works really well. It's really nice if you want to have like a modern version of an Apple extended keyboard, because if you use the original ones, they're actually kind of difficult to type on if you type fast, because they don't use diodes between the individual switches. But this more modern PCB does, so you can actually type at full speed without having to worry about keystrokes getting missed and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the speed, because I use a
that's right. Yeah,
Apple
you
extended keyboard too as my daily driver keyboard, and I don't type fast by any means, but even with my 3-finger pokings that I do, I still do get some blurring in there. And having the home keys with like the bumps on the wrong keys is really disorienting.
I think it's kind of logical because like the homing key is on like the longest finger, like your middle finger is going to be touching it, so like that's somewhat logical. But like the muscle memory does kind of get messed up.
Yeah.
I actually took a keyboard like that, and it was like an old recycled keyboard, and it just wasn't working that well. So I decided to I took it completely apart. I desoldered every switch and all the components from the board. I sanded off all the traces, and then I hand wired the keyboard basically with diodes. And I would not do it again. That's a lot of keys to hand solder, it turns out.
Yeah.
I'm much more amenable to like these like 40% keyboards. These are much more fun to solder because it only takes like an hour or so. But that one took a really long time. But it works really well, and that was like my daily driver for a long time until I started getting like into the tinier and tinier keyboards. But it's like really fun, and I got like brand new Matthias like Alps switches that are super loud and clicky. I still got that one in my basement. It like brings me a little joy every time I see it, but like it's also just so gigantic that it takes up so much space on my desk that I don't want to type on it anymore.
Tricky says Alps are as strong as the Alps.
I love Alps switches.
Only
really
keyboard I have with me is this little thing, which it's really not that bad to type on. Has a trackpad over here too, which is pretty nice. But the idiots who designed it, look at what they did to the T. The T is a half-size key. Like, this is one of the most used letters in the English alphabet, and they butchered it. They could have just made this a ortholinear layout and then had a vertical row to put the hinge on. It's so brutal because, I mean, the V, who cares about the V? The F, but a T, having the half-size T, it like ruins your flow because you just hit the bump in between the middle where the hinge is.
Also, like the middle part's ortholinear, but the rest is like staggered. That's got to be really tricky to get used to.
Yeah, it's a bit off. The one thing though that I like about this is the only Bluetooth keyboard I could find that also is you can hardwire it, so you can go USB straight in instead of Bluetooth, and it's the only fold up keyboard that does that. Otherwise, I would have picked anything else. And then there's this part too, the hinge.
Ooh.
Yeah, both of them, and it does. Yeah, you can hear it while you're typing too, because it flexes just enough, so you have that constant squeak as you type.
It's
kind of brutal.
those old Palm Pilot keyboards that you would see. I remember
That's at
playing
least.
with those.
Those were,
Playing
you
with
know,
those in like a CompUSA. When I was a kid, I just like putz with them and fold and unfold them.
yeah, but those things actually type pretty good. They had the scissor mechanism, like the old style laptops, and you know, it was like a very slow serial interface with no rollover, so it wasn't great, but they're still kind of neat. People actually adapt them now. You can plug in this little adapter and have a USB port on it and plug it into whatever you want to use it with. Some kind of weird retro thing.
Futri said that his laptop has an extra homing bump on the S key because gamers. But, yeah. So I know, Aaron, that you have a bunch more keyboards there. Because I can see them on that stack behind you.
Speaking of keyboards with extra homing keys, this was a Kickstarter keyboard. It's made by Keyboardio, and it's called the Model 01. And so the case is actually made of wood. It's an adorable keyboard. It looks really cool too because it's got like RGB LEDs, and I think that was kind of like that wasn't quite a huge thing in like clicky keyboards at the time. So it was like, I think it was kind of like revolutionary. But like this one actually has homing keys. There's a homing key on the F and there's a homing key on the A, which is really handy too because the way these two like kind of droop down, like your finger will sometimes, like your pinky will rest on the Q. So it's really handy to have that A there to keep you grounded. But I got this one with loud Alps switches, which they don't make it this one anymore. But
those sound so nice.
It's so satisfying to type on.
That sounds terrible.
I have the other one too. I have the version with the quiet switches, and those are also very nice switches. And they actually go a little smoother too because I think for some reason they're lubricated a little bit better at the factory. But this one is a ton of fun. It's programmable with Arduino, actually, which is like something I don't usually see. It uses its own like custom kind of keyboard firmware. It doesn't use QMK. It uses something called Kaleidoscope, I want to say. But it works quite nice. It's not my daily driver. It never really was my daily driver. It almost became that for a hot minute, but like I just keep it as like a conversation piece because it's like just a beautiful object to have around the house. And it's like, I mean, it's like an actual like wood keyboard, which you don't see too often. And they all look really unique, and it's just so beautiful. I just love it so much.
Is that like a little like tiny hand rest at the bottom, like the little circle?
This key right here is it's a palm key.
It's a key. Okay. I wasn't sure. That's really cool.
It does have like you can program it to have mouse support. It's not made, but the switches on this one are made by Matthias. Alps has stopped making switches a while back, but I do have actual Alps switches in this Alps 64 keyboard, which were donated from an Apple keyboard. The one Alps switch I like that are kind of my white whale that I would always love to like get my hands on would be like some Alps blue switches, which I've heard are really remarkable, but also like incredibly rare.
Now, those keycaps that are on your 64 there, are those the set from Drop, or are those the keys that came from the Switch donor?
No, those actually came from the keyboard itself.
They did.
I felt a little bad like tearing apart the keyboard to donate it, but the rest of the keyboard is intact still. And if I ever change my mind and decide to like create the keyboard again, I will.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what are you up to, MSG? Oh, there's Boot again. Keeps popping in and out.
I got a bunch of toys this week.
do that.
And I am go.
Oh, I was just saying that happens.
Got a bunch of toys this week, and now I am running calibrations on the process. So just printing benches and the little calibration square. And then I got.
Oh yeah, you got your resin printer, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't have resin. I bought some that should be delivered tomorrow.
They didn't come with a bottle?
Didn't come with anything. No, I can see it. It's down there.
And you got the Anycubic, didn't you? I think?
Yeah. I guess mine didn't come with any either, but Elega sends me so much free resin that I never order any anyway.
And I got the little box for the filament that heats it up, and we'll see if that's better than just having it hanging out. Because I'd never do anything to keep filament dry besides putting the dry packs. And I have filaments that are more than a year old that I buy and don't really use. So I'll see if having this thing keeping it warm helps or not. And also I just got a new nozzle, what is called X nozzle.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. They supposedly are like super tough and don't stick to anything. I'm
doing the calibrations now after I installed it. They also changed the belts and the bearings. Today I was like changing a bunch of things on the procedures, and then tomorrow when the resin arrives, I'll play with the resin printer. This got delivered earlier today.
Yeah, you know, I've got a new printer too, but I haven't had time to set it up. I got the Elegoo FDM printer. I've been waiting for that thing to get back in stock. My rep there, she's been promising it was in stock. So like we sent it to it. It's supposed to be, you know, up on like the 1st. Took Amazon like 20 days to get it listed. But finally popped up. It's supposed to be a very good machine, you know, like $170. So my Core XY that I've been upgrading, the extruder, the hot end on it shit itself the other day, and I repaired it and it started leaking again. And yeah, so having no printer sucks, especially when you need to print a new bracket to mount the fan shroud and you can't print.
The first thing I'm going to print once I have it working is all the parts I replaced today, print backups. So I always have a baggie with all the parts of the process a backup, because break them or whatever, and it will be so annoying then if I have to put an order and have them shipped from Europe just because
That's a good idea. You know, now that you'll have a resin printer, you'll actually be able to make those parts in resin too. You just have to use the right kind, like the Cyberdeck tough resin. That one's got just enough flex in it. Yeah, that's their tough resin. It's got a little bit of flex in it. It's kind of more like a polyurethane than an acrylic. You know, you can drop it or like throw it against the wall or something, and it doesn't really shatter, just chips a little on the edges.
And now that I have a printer, I guess I'll be asking around if someone wants to use one of these technical difficulties to show tricks on how to mix resins or give them colors or all these type of things. We'll see.
That would be a really cool video, actually.
Yeah, I could head up a little resin demonstration for you guys. I've mixed in all kinds of different powdered pigments and glitter and stuff. My girlfriend does a lot of resin casting and all these different things with resins, with glitter and stuff. So I've had a little bit of experience with it. I'll tell you one thing, if you add in glitters, it destroys the FEP liner on the vat. You have to replace that thing all the time because they scratch the shit out of it.
Glitter is just no good. It's everywhere.
I mean,
it's fun though, you know.
I just got
you wake up, there's glitter on you, you don't know where it came from. You know it was a good night.
I got the filament, the one that has iron that I believe you mentioned that you used before.
Yeah, and that one you can do the forced patina rust on it. So like, that's a really cool thing. You do vinegar and salt. You know, stick it in a baggie full of vinegar and salt and stick that in the sun for a day, and it just turns orange. It gets the coolest looking color, where you can have it like have it streak down the side on purpose, so you can make it look like something that's been out in the weather for a while, or just turn the entire thing bright orange. It's pretty cool too for like a flower pot. You can like intentionally spill over the side every time you water it, so that you build up the patina more and more every time. I did a treasure chest, a Zelda treasure chest, for my brother-in-law who is really into Zelda, and he's got like, you know, all the gold cartridges and everything. So it was a case to hold all of the game carts, and I put Zelda in big letters across the top, and then did the force rust on that, glued that to the box. Also, when you open the box, it starts playing the theme song, and it plays the entire theme song, the full like minute and like whatever it is, 15 seconds. If you just leave it open, it plays the whole song, which you never ever hear in the game. It's there, it's in the ROM, but it never plays all the way through. You have to actually like dump the ROM to extract the song from it. Luckily, someone else had already done that. And then inside, I also printed in the Iron PLA the entire Hyrule map, which I drew and designed myself. So I have the entire Hyrule STL. If anyone ever wants it, I've never put this one on Thingiverse or anything. It's pretty cool. It has little trees and the castle, all the little detail, the moat, everything's in there.
It's pretty cool.
Oh,
You'll have to show that off one of these days.
I couldn't mention it because you were mentioning, oh, if you use glitter, you destroy parts of the resin printer. And with Iron PLA, you probably, if you were to use a brass nozzle, you'll destroy it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. It's just like, you know that you either put a different nozzle or you replace the brass. And I assume the glitter, probably similar. Like, you know that it's going to damage something.
Yeah, for the Iron PLA, what I do is I just plan on using 4 brass nozzles for one whole roll. And that way you don't have any deformations that, mess up your print. Just don't do any prints that take more than like 5 hours, or you'll have worn down the nozzle enough to start having layer issues. So just keep it limited to like, 2-3 hours per print, and then just swap the nozzle out, use up those 10-cent nozzles. Even your hardened steel nozzle will be destroyed by it. So I wouldn't waste a nice $20 nozzle on the Iron PLA. Just use a baggie full of the brass ones. You'll be fine. Plus it clogs really bad when it burns. So it's nice just to throw away the nozzle. And, especially when you're swapping to another filament after the Iron PLA, don't just swap and keep the same nozzle and just get rid of it and go to the next.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Aaron, do you have a 3D printer yet, or?
No, that's a rabbit hole I have not gone down yet. I've currently like confined my money losses to mechanical keyboards that I keep.
You could sell one mechanical keyboard and buy an entire 3D printer setup.
I probably, I'm actually like really impressed with like how much like the cost of them have come down. Mostly the thing that holds me back on them is mostly just like the complexity of actually like designing the objects that I think I'd want to design. And I'm not totally sure like what I would end up using it to build yet, but like.
Well, even if you don't know how to 3D model, there's literally a couple million really cool models already available for free. And then there's, probably 100,000 you could buy that are just incredible. Even I buy them from time to time because like I can sculpt things, but do I want to spend time sculpting something that someone else already spent like 100 hours on? And they usually sell them for like $3.
That's an excellent point.
It's a pretty fun rabbit hole to fall down.
Yeah, I printed that one this week.
Well, that's
what
really
about
cool.
you, Dahlia? Have you got a printer yet?
No, not yet. I started looking into them, but I've just been spending some time offline, and haven't been able to like, pick one out yet. But I am definitely going to get one because there's a bunch of stuff I want to do.
I've been seeing people like 3D printing keycaps now. Like has like 3D printing gotten to the point where the resolution is good enough that the tolerances are tight enough that you can make
with resin? Yes. With resin, you absolutely can. It is hard, though, because with resin, having dimensionally accurate parts on the inside and outside of the design is a little bit difficult. You get little blobs of resin that like to kind of stick to the edges, and then when you cure it, now you've got, like the stem is ruined because you didn't get all of the excess resin out of the inside of the stem. So there's some design compromises you have to make. You need to make like an X-style stem that is not the captive circle that has the X inside it. You need it to be open so that you can clean out the inside well enough, but then you don't have a very strong stem. So then now you need to use one of those tough resins like the Tenacious, but then that resin likes to warp. It's its own challenge, but when you get it dialed in, it does work. But some designs just are really hard. One way to mitigate that is to just get those stem blanks that everyone uses when they sculpt keycaps on top. they're like the little plastic stems and a little flat plate. So if you just take that and then resin print some cool cap and glue that onto it, you don't have to deal with that whole aspect of it.
Makes sense.
So that definitely makes it easier.
If you're good painting, probably the thing is, if you bring with filament, it's not going to look very good. But if then you sand it and paint it, it may actually look okay. Like the thing that.
Yeah, I mean, I know one person, Riskable in our group. He does, he FDM prints his keycaps, but he FDM prints his entire key switches, and I don't think anyone else on the planet has the kind of patience he does to dial it in. It's definitely above and beyond what most of us can manage. I do have
a link to his YouTube, I think.
Yeah, you should. I do have one resin printed keycap that I've kept on my keyboard for like 2 years now, almost 3 years. And when I released the Virtue Scope, which is my Cyberdeck, included in it are 4 custom keycaps for the Cyberdecks, which, as far as I know, not a single other person has ever printed. Even though they're included, they're just completely ignored. No one ever mentions them. But they are there, and they're very cool, and they are very printable in resin. I wouldn't try it on FDM at all. But they're sized so that the tolerances and everything work out quite well. And they're kind of cool because, you print it, paint it, and then dip it in resin and cure that resin so you have a nice smooth dome on top. But, it's okay. Those are just for the elite deckers out there.
Yeah, Aaron, I dropped the link in both the YouTube chat and the private chat. I actually wanted to have Riskable on tonight, but unfortunately we're a little bit past his bedtime because he works early in the morning. So, but his keyboard is pretty insane. He uses Hall effect sensors instead of regular key switches, and it's just really cool the way he just made everything so modular, and I think it would be right up your alley.
That looks really fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that like the equipment is getting to the point where people can start inventing like completely new switch mechanisms and just new switches altogether instead of just like working with you can use like the ecosystem now. It's like all very plug and play. You can get like Cherry MX compatible switches, and like the boards are all like fairly compatible and standardized. But like it's been interesting to see people like actually like take it a step further.
Yeah. His stuff is really pretty wild. And while I'm at it, while I'm dropping links, here's a link to Dahlia's YouTube channel as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put it in the private chat as well for you. Here we go. Okay. So yeah.
So I do have one thing with me that I could show on the stream. Well, a couple things. But some things I've been working on, and I keep them with me in case I actually get a chance to get out and be outside, which I rarely do. These are my FPV goggles.
Oh my.
Yeah. So you look in there, there's one large screen and a lens that focuses it. I have adapted a external receiver to it. This is a pretty standard receiver module that usually fits inside a receiver bay built in the side of these things, but this type of goggle doesn't have them. I can't use the type that have the split screens because it just makes me nauseous. It's kind of like a 50-50. Some people it works, some people it doesn't. So if it doesn't work, you use something called a box goggle, which is this style. Has one display, so there's no lag between the refresh of the 2 screens, which makes some people sick. But you can just adapt the module. I don't have a 3D printed case for it right now. I just have it attached with some VHB and some tape for a temporary fix.
I think it looks cool that way.
It kind of does, but I do need to put a case on it for, to keep it safe. This receiver module is about $150, so I don't want it just sitting here in the wind. And then there's an adapter that goes under it. This has a voltage regulator built in, a battery checker built in, and I can show that here, which is a very handy thing to have so that you can make sure your battery is charged up before you start flying. It's a little display right there. The last thing you want is to have it cut out while you're flying, because you cannot fly these things line of sight unless they're within about 60 feet, and they're usually a lot farther away than that. So with this video receiver and a transmitter running at within the FCC's limitations, you can get about a 2-kilometer range, up to about 30 kilometers, but you need some bigger antennas on here. But about a 2-kilometer range, which is pretty damn good for a 5.8 gigahertz signal. Same frequency as Wi-Fi, so if you're really close to an apartment complex, you're going to have some interference problems. You can just change the channel, and that usually clears it up. You want to be somewhere above where the Wi-Fi is usually sitting. This just connects over AV. It's not HD by any respect. It's all analog, so you have the lowest possible refresh rate you can manage. I actually have a different pair of goggles I'm working on that are the Glyph, which is a retinal DLP projector. So it projects right into the lens of your eye. And they actually have a slightly better refresh rate, so a slightly lower latency than these goggles. I was testing them side by side last night, and there is a noticeable difference. You just wave your hand in front of the camera and you can see, where that lag is. But yeah, omnidirectional and a patch antenna for directional. This is a diversity receiver, so it takes 2 signals and combines the frames together. In case one drops out or has a little static, it combines them and removes the static. It's got some complex stuff. This also has what I'd consider kind of like the Batman tracker. You take off the omnidirectional, and using the directional antenna, there's then a signal readout on here, and it beeps at a different frequency, so you can aim and find your drone when you have lost it and it has fallen in a field somewhere. So you just turn it and aim it, and you hear it beep, 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 and then go in that direction, and you can find it pretty easily that way, which is a very, very nice feature, and one of the reasons that I got this particular module. There's only a couple that support that feature. And then for the battery, just have a 2S setup, 18650s on a little custom battery sled I put together. So that's kind of a fun little thing. But, it's kind of taped on the side, wires break, things go wrong. So what I really want to show you guys, and I do have the quad over here too, I can pop that up. But this is a what's in my bag kind of thing. This little kit here, this is a field repair unit. Everyone should have one in their bag. It's kind of nice. Inside is actually got a bit of everything. Most important tool, soldering iron. I picked up this one recently. This is the Pine Sill from Pine 64. It's not that good, really. I would just go with the TS80 next time. This thing's got too much going on in its software, and the button placement, you end up pressing the button while you're using it, and then that turns it off or jumps the temperature way up, and you end up scorching what you're working on. So that's kind of a hassle, but it's USB-C powered, which is nice, or I can plug it into one of my LiPo packs for the drone, so I always have power for it in the field. This is just a torch, good for heat shrink, good for solder on large wires if you ever need to. Multi-tool screwdriver and bits for it for all the common sizes I use. And then you just have things like BHV tape, some silicone tape for grip and waterproofing, regular electrical tape, solder, scissors, pliers. You want to have like spare parts, screws, zip ties. And then this one's pretty cool. This is just a micro USB to USB-C cable. And with this, you can plug the drone right into your phone, run an app, and reprogram all of the settings on it from that app. And that is just something that, we didn't have a couple of years ago. And it makes it so much easier to tune up and, make some adjustments, maybe adjust the frequency you're on in case, someone else is flying in the same area and you don't want to knock them out of the sky. So you reprogram it that way before booting up so that you don't, black out their signal and, they go crashing down, which is kind of a rude thing to do.
Was that a kit that you bought that way, or is that something that you assembled primarily?
That is that is my actual daily use materials. You know, these are the actual tools that I use here. Let's see, these scissors, you get them in the networking department at like Home Depot. They're high carbon steel. They do not break, they do not chip, and they don't get dull. I've had this pair, 16 years now, about 16 years, got them a while back. They have a spring-loaded pin in it that is adjustable in tension right here with the screwdriver. This is key, because if you're trying to cut something that's too thick and it just can't do it, it'll just open slightly and just pop around instead of damaging the blade. It'll just kind of pop over it. And this is like a feature that no other scissors I've ever found have. And there's a slight serrated, excuse me, it's dusty in here. Serrated edge right here, which holds on to stuff so it doesn't slip out as you're trying to cut it. These are intended for cutting copper wires. They're not just for doing paper or something. You know, these are meant for cutting metal. You don't want to cut steel with it, but copper or anything like that, aluminum, they work great. And then there's a wire stripper built right into the edge right here. You can kind of see the two notches, smaller one and a bigger one. And this is great for stripping the housing off any kind of wire. These really, right here, this is the best tool you can have in your pocket. It's definitely been a handy one. And as we were talking about earlier too, a good pair of dikes. These I actually hand ground myself using dikes. Side cutters. It's the
okay.
That's what they're called.
Never heard it called that.
Yeah, that's where the name came from. I ground these down myself, so you can see how thin it is. See how it's super, super thin there? But these are like high carbon side cutters, and you can't buy any like this. So sometimes you just got to make your own tools. So I ground these down using a belt sander and gave it a very, very thin pitch. This lets you get into really, really tight spaces and clip stuff that you can't normally reach. It's very handy if you're trying to cut like a wire that's come partially loose, but you can't quite get to it. You need to remove it. Or just like zip ties or the sprues off of off a model or off your 3D print. I use these with my resin prints to remove the support material. You need really, really thin side cutters to do that. So you can get right in on the edge. MSG, you should get yourself a pair of these. Not those. The tips on those will come off and take your eye out. You don't want to use that too often.
If you're looking for a really good pair of something that would be like for cutting sprues, there's actually a brand of like little nippers called God Hands, and a lot of people who build like Gundam models and Gunpla and stuff like that, they use those.
Good luck buying a pair.
Well, I mean, they are a little more expensive. They go from like $50 to $100, but
exactly. So the ones that I have run about $14. Indestructible. Takes 5 minutes to grind them down, and same thing. But yes, those are very good. The problem is that they're just usually not in stock, and when they are, they're like $100 plus. Whichever ones you buy, just get something that's marked like Japanese steel that actually comes from Japan, and they make things there a little differently, and they don't break. The one that MSG is holding up, the end on it is going to snap off one day and go flying through your house and possibly take out someone's eye. For some reason, it always comes at you when they break. No matter what angle you're at, it always comes at your face. I broke three pairs of those, and the third pair was that's enough. I'm not going to do another one. 3 was. I mean, enough.
It was $5 or $7. So
it's not the money. It's the damage done when they break. Where does that tip go flying at? Mach 3.
I guess the main use I only use it to cut the PLA before I put it in the extruder, because there is always a little blob or whatever. So I just cut it. For cutting PLA, I don't see like.
It's fine for that. It's fine for plastics. The problem is when you grab them to snip something like a wire or something, and you don't realize that that's a little bit tougher than the things can handle. Put a little too much pressure on it. Maybe I'm just too strong for it. I don't know, but they keep breaking.
For wires, I use that one.
That's good.
It's a stripper, and then here cuts the wire. So for wires, I use that one, and the other is for plastics. And for what I do, it's fine.
Field kit is good to have. Everyone should throw one together. Might make that one of our. Maybe it'll be one of our weekly challenges. Let's see everyone's go bag.
The things I don't have that I need to get, so you just put the links, is the tapes. The only tape I have is the regular electrical tape. But you mentioned
that electrical tape too. It's such a mess. Like, it leaves that black crap on everything, and the older ones used to hold up, but the ones you get now, they're just so cheap. I wouldn't even trust it to hold back, mains current voltage. They're really not very good. They're just like a PVC vinyl, and they shrink when they heat up too, which is a problem because then they unravel. There's definitely some better ones that are nylon based with a silicone adhesive, and when they heat up, the adhesive gets stronger. So what you do is when you wrap it, you then hit it with a torch or a hot air gun, and it fuses that adhesive together, and it just never comes undone. Liquid electrical tape is okay, but you can't be sure that it has actually covered the surface fully, or how thick of that surface. So you really can't trust it for anything high voltage. It's good to put on at the end after you've already wrapped it in something else if you want to coat it for like waterproofing it, but you really can't use it to guard against mains current or anything like that. Liquid tape, yeah. MSG, I'll send you some links for the good stuff.
Yeah, that one I use it actually mainly for creating a surface that gets a little ragged. For example, I put it on the MSG to push the keyboard, but for anything electrical, I use those that have like heat shrink wraps that have glue inside. So for anything electrical, I can use those.
It has basically hot glue inside of it. It's called it's for marine use. Use it anywhere that might get moisture in it, and because of the glue inside, it seals it up so you don't get any kind of corrosion going on. That stuff works really good, and as long as weight isn't an issue, like I can't use that on the quadcopter because you're adding weight because of the thickness of the glue, and everything you do has to be as light and thin as possible. I will show you guys this before I jump off, because I've got like another 6 hours ahead of me at this laboratory. Doing a whole overhaul of their security system, and it's active during the day, so it's not great being in here during the daytime. So this is a 3-inch quadcopter. It's really very cool technology that didn't exist a couple years ago, and I'm quite impressed with how good everything's gotten. I just built this one. Still working on tuning it up a little bit. Needs a couple more adjustments, or maybe just put it back to default. I think I'm making it worse, but you got 3-inch tri-blade propellers on it, fairly aggressive pitch, so it's got a lot of lift, some good sized motors. Battery goes on top. You've got a all-in-one control board in the middle. I added a voltage regulator here for a more stable voltage to run the camera. And this camera is roughly about a 2 megapixel camera, but it transmits over analog, so it's a composite. It's 1200 TTL lines, which is about the maximum capable for an analog camera. The image looks awesome, looks really good at night. I do have a couple flight vids up on the channel, but they're set to private. Maybe I'll just open those up later so everyone can check it out if they're interested. It's a lot of fun. And then carbon fiber frame, full carbon fiber. It's very cool how far the tech has come. I also put this transflective tape on everything that I fly. Anything that might get dropped in the field, or a battery that gets ejected when you crash and the battery goes flying. This is invaluable, because even if you've lost it during the day, you can come back at night with a really bright LED flashlight and just shine it around the field, and you'll see that pop out, because this stuff gets brighter the more light that hits it. And it's significantly brighter than anything that ambient or the actual beam of light you're shining on it. It'll flash back much brighter. So put this on everything you have. If you're ever going to be outside at night, stick it on your jacket if you don't want to get hit by a car. A lot of shoes come with it. Like all the skate shoes have a little patch of it on the back of the shoe now, because that way you are visible when you're out there at night. I prefer not to get hit by cars. I don't care if I'm not, super ninja sneaky while I'm out there. I'd rather just, not die. But it's cool stuff. You can get this at Home Depot. It comes in black and yellow striped. You put it like to mark a stair or a step or something like in your garage. And you just cut out the yellow section of it. The black section, it's kind of useless. It's also completely impossible to remove. It just flakes off. Like it's the strongest adhesive you could imagine. So it makes for a very good tape as well. But yeah, that's what I've got with me. Some cool little stuff. This thing here, it's called a smoke stopper. Anytime you do work, any kind of field repair on your drone, on your quad, on your RC car, you plug this in between the battery and the device, turn it on, and what it does is this is a current limiter. So if anything's shorted out because you didn't do a good job on your repairs, then this thing will just start dumping that current through this resistor bank or their FET chips or something, and it'll set off an alarm, and it'll then cut power, and it does it all very quickly before you can unplug your battery and put out the fire that started. It literally stops fires. Like these things catch fire when you short stuff out because there's so much amps involved. This is probably the most important piece of kit you can have with you in the field, or even at home, anytime you're doing any repairs on any RC stuff, or if you're just, building yourself a Cyberdeck and you want to save yourself from, destroying everything, plug one of these in between your power source. And with these switches here, you can program how many amps it'll pass through before triggering. So if your system draws 3 amps, then set this for 3 and use it. And if it draws more than that, it'll just shut off instead of everything going up in smoke. So this is also good if you're building your own battery packs, your own power supply. I know it's a touchy subject for the Cyberdecks because it's kind of a tough one to tackle. Everyone's kind of scared of lipos. They're not scary. You just need to use the right tools. These cost like $3. There's no reason not to have one. I probably should have shared this piece with you guys last year. But it's just expected that everyone has one, but I guess not. But yeah, that's what I've got with me.
Very cool.
Some fun stuff. I mean, these I just like how they look too. I mean, you walk around wearing this, and you're definitely
you need to
get
put that
noticed.
on. You have to put that on.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm in cyberpunk right now.
Very much so. Very much looks.
I of course threw a few of my favorite stickers on here. This one is older than me, believe it or not. There are things older than me. I bought this like pack of stickers. It came in like a pencil box randomly at some thrift shop, and inside like the bottom compartment that had like never been opened in like 20 years, 30 years. Like you opened it and there was like a smell that came out. Like this has been sealed. That was some old air in there. And there's all these awesome old, stickers, and like stick-on tattoos and stuff. They all have the dates on it. They're all from like early 80s, which is kind of cool.
Full of lead and asbestos and all the good stuff from the 80s.
Yeah, it smells like it. And one of these I void warranties stickers. I think we've all gotten some of these sent from, can't remember his name at the moment, but one of the makers out there makes these and sends them to everybody. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it's kind of fun.
Antennas look so cool. Just coming off
Yeah,
the side
well,
like that. They really do look cool.
They do have a dual purpose too. These are 5.8 gigahertz. I can just stick these on a Wi-Fi router if I wanted to, or grab antennas off the Wi-Fi router and plug them in a pinch. You just got to make sure it's an RP SMA or a, not just an SMA, that there's a pin in the middle. And if there isn't, cut a little length of copper, stick that in there so that you have a pin inside the connector. Nothing worse than plugging in an antenna and going for a flight only to realize there's no center pin, and that's why your signal is terrible and you can't see shit, which happened to me like 2 days ago, which I didn't even consider it because I bought antennas specifically made for FPV stuff, and they were missing the pin in the middle. Like, what kind of idiot did that? But that's all I've got for you guys tonight. I got to run. I've got a long, long night ahead of me. So have fun, and thanks everyone for joining the stream. Later.
Yeah, we'll see you later. Have a good day at work. So, what happened here? There we go. There's MSG. So I think, Aaron, you have one more keyboard you wanted to show off, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned,
so many
before,
cool things.
Yeah, well, so as my keyboard journey has been continuing, I've been going to like smaller and smaller keyboards. So like for a while, my daily driver was a Plank, like this one. So 48 keys. I actually really strongly recommend trying a Plank. I'm a big fan of them as like a way to get into the ortholinear thing, and I recommend you try it even if you're intimidated by the fact that there's a small number of keys, because it's such a small number of keys that like your hand will become familiar with the territory very quickly, because there's not much for us to be familiar with. Like your fingers never have to travel more than one away from the home row to be able to hit any key on the keyboard. But eventually, like I got to a point where I was like, I would like a Plank, but I just want a couple more keys. So I decided to try out an Iris kit. So this was an interesting build that I did. And you can get these kits from Keeb.io. But this has kind of got my Green Bay Packers colors here. I guess this harkens back to my time when I lived in Wisconsin. Basically, this is an interesting build because I'm using Alps switches. They're not Alps switches, they're Matthias switches, but they're like Alps style switches for these white keys. But what I realized quickly is this Iris keyboard is basically meant so that the top row would be numeric keys and then the rest would be just like the normal keys. And I was using it differently. I was basically treating it as though it's a Plank keyboard where like these are like the 48 keys, and then I want to just have extra keys for these. So what I initially found was when I put regular Alps keys here on these thumb switches, or on the thumb switches, I was just hitting them all the time really clumsily because I was trying to hit like these modifier keys down here. So I actually, because this particular PCB supported both, it supported like MX style switches, it supported Alps switches, and it also supported low profile chalk switches. I actually put chalk switches in here. And I kind of cheated a little bit. If you look closely, you can kind of see that the PCB is like right up against the thing here, because it's actually pressed up against, and it's flexing a little bit to actually make contact, because the gap that the Alps switches create is bigger than the gap that the chalk switches create. But the finished product, it does work, and it has been stable so far. I haven't had any issues with it, but it works really nicely. And it does give me just that, like, it is nice. I basically just have a Plank keyboard, but I've got these like 8 extra keys here. They're just accessible, with my thumbs. You just press a little bit extra, and like I can set them to some macros or some other common keyboard shortcuts. Because I use kind of a non-standard Plank layout for myself, and it just makes it that much easier to do those things.
Those are really cool. What did the little chalk sound like? Do they?
Oh yeah, so these are, I got Jade switches. Love it.
Ooh,
Love it.
so
they're really nice. They actually have like a little bit of resistance, and they have a nice little thunk to them when you hit them. And they're just like, there's a regular cherry switches. Like I've got Jade switches in the Plank as well. Which ones are they? They're the bottom ones here. If ever I have like a key switch tester, and like my finger always gravitates toward the Jade and the Navy switches, because they're just like a really satisfying bump on them. I don't know if you ever used them before, but they're super nice. But yeah, those are the chalk switches that I've got. I actually would like to see more like keyboards incorporating chalk switches, because like they're very nice. Like the ecosystem just like isn't as widespread, but they're super
Well,
cool.
they actually have the chalk V2. Are you okay, MSG? You look.
I was going to say, like, the chalk between the top, it needs special keycaps, and the bottom needs a special PCB. Like, I think Bud was said that he found at MacKeyboards.com or something some chalk or chalk V2 that actually the top is cherry and the bottom hopefully is a little more like normal, so you can just put it like you will on.
That's interesting. Yeah, if they have the same like pinout, that would be perfect because then I could just, like, use them interchangeably.
I'm pretty sure they're cherry compatible, both top and bottom. But they're pretty nice.
Okay, if that's true, I may have just bought another keyboard because, like, especially if they work with the cherry compatible hot swappable sockets, because that's another thing I'm a big fan of because I really hate soldering. So like this keyboard, for instance, the switches are hot swappable. So the plate really holds them on well, but you can just you can pry them off without an actual soldering iron, and it's super super nice if you just want to like try a different switch feel. It's like I try not to buy new keyboards without those. I'll build keyboards that you have to solder, but like I don't want to like buy a pre-made keyboard that doesn't let me hot swap because I just can't commit to a switch like that. It's just too much to ask.
What kind of switch do you like, Dahlia? You probably have a favorite.
My favorite is this one that I just kind of assembled. Although I do like box shades. They are very clicky.
I love box shades.
So I used to have an Ergo Docs, all jades, and I would bring it into work and everyone hated when I brought it into work. But let me see if I can I forgot what. Oh, okay, cool. This one comes off. So this is a very cool switch that I assembled together. So basically it has the housing of an Utemu switch. The like the inside of it has, what was it? I don't know how to pronounce it. Kale or Kalith, Kailh. Milky yellow switch inside, I think. Yeah. And then the top of it is made out of Aristotle stems. So it just sounds like super clicky, or I don't know if you guys can hear that, but pretty clicky.
Ooh, okay.
And it kind of feels like an Alp switch. Like I think it's very comparable to like the same feeling you get when you're typing on Alps. And I tried it, I want to say like 3 years ago at a keyboard meetup because someone had like a little tiny keyboard that was full of yellow Gadistotles. And I've been obsessed with them since then. And I was finally able to get my hands on some Aristotle stems. Probably like maybe like last year. From a well-known person in the community called Heroin Bob. Yeah. So I got him from that guy and I assembled it, and it's just very lovely to type on. Very, very clicky. And
I've never heard of replacing like just the stems to get different characteristics. Like what is it, like a different material, or is there something like, is it differently shaped inside the switch?
It is differently shaped. It's still compatible, but like I forgot where I put them because I like had a whole little jar of just like, you know, different stems, different like little springs and different housings on it. But basically you just take it apart, put whatever you want. So like I only use the Utemu housing of the switch, so like the outside of it, because that's what was recommended to me to best hold onto the Aristotle stems. But it's really hard to get your hands on Aristotles, I guess, because not a lot of keyboards were made with them.
I've never even heard of them before now.
Yeah, I'd never heard of them either.
Yeah, they're like a really, I guess, not well-known switch. They're still MX compatible and stuff, but it just feels really nice. I love like the tactile feeling of them. And
My mind is also blown just like knowing that you can. I didn't realize the switches were so standard in terms of like the components inside that you could like interchange them so much. Like I always figured I knew like with like my box switches I could like change things out pretty easily. but I didn't realize that like they were interchangeable quite to that extent, where you could actually like just take different housing, different like stem, and all that sort of thing. It's really cool.
Yeah. Like, I guess this was like overkill, but I also lubed up the Aristotle switch or stem of it, and I also filmed it. But like, there's really no need for that because these are supposed to be, you know, loud and clicky, and that's kind of to like, I guess the filming kind of silences them a little bit. So I just wanted to, you know, do that.
I didn't want to
Feel
annoy your
fancy.
coworkers too bad.
But it's really cool. Like, honestly, look into like switch modding, and it's really fun. You could just put whatever you want from like each switch together and make something like new and fun.
That's really cool.
I still need to find a switch that is like suitable for my Zoom calls. I do have like this is like a split plank. It's like the Nyquist, I think. And then this has like quiet Alp switches, and that's a nice go-to. But I was hoping to find like an MX compatible switch that is equivalent to the Matthias like quiet click switches, because those like they dampen on the downstroke and the upstroke, so they're super quiet, but they still feel really good. And like I found like these box Royal switches, and those work quite nicely, and they're pretty quiet, but they're closer to like a brown switch to me. But they just like there's like a more premium feeling. I still like would like to find one that's like just whisper quiet, so that I can use them freely during a Zoom call without having to mute.
I think Zelio switches are very quiet, or not super quiet, but they can be very quiet once you like, you know, film.
Mine are.
Yeah, they're very smooth. I like how like buttery they feel.
Those are the Zialios, the silent. Those are the Zial non-silent though. And I have
Silencios or something.
And then I have the Aqua Silence. I put in here.
Ooh.
You hear them a little more, and the reason is because there is the keyboard and then there is empty space, and so the empty space acts a little as a like echo.
Or kind of like an echo chamber.
So they are louder mounted here than they will on a keyboard, even though they should be about the same. The only difference is those are the base Zialios, which are kind of clear. Works very well when you have RGB on it. What do I have there? There, when you have RGB, because they are clear, and you can do like I don't know if you appreciate that. Under the blue, I have blue LEDs. Under the yellow, and so on. It's hard to see in the camera. Here I don't have LEDs, so I tried the ones they call it Aqua Silence, so they are kind of bluish. They should also be fairly quiet. So those are fine. I like them. So I bought all those Silence. I saw one time a novel keys where it's called Trash Panda, which is also like sort of a switch that is a mix of two switches. I got it, and I didn't like it any more than the blues that this one originally came with. And so I'm not using the Trash Pandas or the blues. I like more the Zialios. Anyway.
Very cool. Right now I've been building. I notice it doesn't really use key switches, but I've been working on this little keyboard. Let me throw it in full screen. So this is the same one that you guys have been seeing me work on for a while now. I've run into several problems. First and foremost was as you can see here in the center up there, I had a Teensy 2.0, and apparently that does not play nice with what I wanted it to do. I was super excited about using it because it actually had USB solder pads on it, so I could, use like a nice aviation connector, I thought, but I'm going to have to end up using the Teensy 2.0 because the building, like the online builder, this is just Teensy 2.0 here. The online builder tool that I used for building the firmware does not support the processor that the Teensy LC uses, just the 2.0. So, and I'm by far nowhere near smart enough with the whole programming thing to figure that out. I mean, even the last keyboard, Aaron here's actually the one that saved my ass with the keyboard. The keyboard, it was all backwards. He figured it out in like 2 minutes.
It was a lucky guess. How do the keys feel on that little tiny keyboard? Are they like little like circuit type buttons, like those?
I can
buttons
pop one up. They are. They're like little tactile switches. Here, I can make this big. Hold on a second. So it's just like a little tactile switch. They're 12 millimeters square, and they're really loud.
That's more travel than I would have expected, actually.
Yeah, you can like here. I mean, it's not a lot, but they do kind of wobble a little bit. But they feel okay. I mean, it's not something I'm gonna type a great novel on, but for thumb typing, this works perfectly fine. Yeah, like it's my first foray into the whole.
You were just holding a second ago.
What?
MSG was holding a neat looking keyboard a second ago. Yeah,
I can't hear you, MSG.
Yeah, it looks like you're muted.
Because I have the printer and also the dog was drinking water. I put that one together, which has the same idea of the buttons, like push buttons, which is the one Blasto is putting together. It's not satisfying at all. Originally, it was all blanks, and I can't type on a sea of blanks. My wife put the little legends on it. They're a little whimsical all over the place. It's not really something I want to use for anything. Even though it has as many keys as the Plank, and it's QMK compatible, so you can set it up with the layers and all. It's not. I'm not using it. I'm actually trying to get more comfortable to use the gherkin, even though you lose some keys. And I think I'm in my next project. I think I'm gonna have that keyboard in, because this one is just not satisfying at all to type on this thing.
I almost bought one of those, and then I realized that I usually am using a bunch of layers with my Plank, so it would be really difficult to do that with that and be an effective typist. So
in that sense, you can easily, because you're able to sum with basically 1 and 2 for lower and higher layers. You're able to use layers all right in terms of using layers, but obviously as a thumb keyboard, both hands in there, it's not realistic. So it's going to be a thumb keyboard with layers, and in that sense it does work. You just, for example, if 1 becomes the middle, that layer of the A becomes numbers, then that's going to be a 3 and a 5. So you're able to use layers, and it's QMK compatible.
That could be handy for handheld use with an iPad, I bet. If I just got an iPad sitting on the couch, I could just hold that with my hand and type things. I don't have to keep grabbing it and reaching out.
As a thumb keyboard, it actually may be okay, but I'm not. I mean, I guess I have this thing that uses a thumb keyboard, and this one actually is okay. It's just a BlackBerry keyboard. As a thumb keyboard, I guess I'd rather use that one than that one. And at the end of the day, it's smaller too.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned, Aaron. I remember telling you that I was planning on using the MagSafe ring, kind of mounted on above the keyboard here, so that I could snap my phone to it. But the phone case that I use, even though they say it's MagSafe compatible, I use a waterproof case on my phone because I'm a klutz and I drop shit all the time. But it just doesn't hold on there well enough for it to actually stay on there. So I kind of scrapped that idea, because I don't trust myself, with a $1,200 phone without a case on it. I would break it really fast.
I went I don't use cases, but I used to use screen protectors, and then for the 12, I decided to go screen protectorless. And whatever Apple says about the new glass being 4 times as strong, they are absolutely correct, because I for some reason I'm a klutz and I keep dropping this all the time, and the glass is absolutely perfect. It's not even scratched yet, and I've had it since the fall, and I've dropped it like at least once a week. So whatever ceramic like reinforcement they're doing it's working because it's like it really is quite sturdy.
I still use the X since it came out, I guess 2017. I bought this case, which is pretty much thin as paper, it's extremely thin, and it's perfectly fine. The only damage you can see is from when my wife dropped it at the dog park, and it just scratched there. That's the only damage it's gotten, and it's just with this crappy kind of paper thin case, and I do drop it. Kind of clumsy. I'm surprised. I really expected it to last 2 years, but no, it's been 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, it's gonna be 4 years.
I do wonder how well the waterproofing holds up after the phone's been dropped a couple times, because I assume those gaskets are like very tight tolerances, and like I gotta imagine like if you drop and you like bend the case a little bit, it might actually like open one of those gaskets up and like you might lose your waterproofness.
I don't know, because do they really use like actual discrete gaskets? Because as far as I know, it's just like glue.
Yeah, they glue everything together too.
Yeah.
It probably is actually not too bad. They make them in such high volume that I bet they actually make them to be pretty sturdy. But I also know, being Apple, that they like also produce stuff to very tight tolerances. So like I also wouldn't be surprised if like it didn't stay waterproof. I'm not making a habit of ducking mine, but
isn't it supposed to be able to take a photo like underwater, or not really?
It's supposed to be, it can go underwater. I don't know if it can like be dropped and like hit a surface underwater or something, but like it is rated for like going like a meter underwater for a half hour.
I mean, if you want to go underwater, I mean, you know,
it looks like you're set up
from
for that.
Catalyst, yeah, Catalyst makes by far the best. Like out of any case that I've used, I don't take these off. That's just how much I love them. They can go, I think it's like 3 meters underwater for like an hour, and you know, I don't really go very deep underwater very often. I don't return to my natural habitat too often anymore. But you know, I mean, as far as dropping, and you know, my pet peeve is like if you get like lotion on your hands or something and then you touch your phone and then it's greasy. Like I hate that so much. Oh, here we go with Boo talking about Apple fanboys again. I knew that was coming. I knew it. But,
because if we use Apple, there will be no technical difficulties, right? Is that?
Yeah, I usually get a lot of shit for using Apple products here. So if you think I'm bad in that sense, Boot.
Yeah, I remember whenever I use Apple stuff, and we all struggle with it. We all have technical difficulties with our Apple stuff. I've got so many complaints.
I've never owned an iPhone.
No?
So. But it just seems so convenient. I have a OnePlus.
Oh, okay. Those are good.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's pretty big. No complaints here. I've had it for like 4 years, I think. So it's still going strong.
Yeah. Those are pretty nice, those OnePluses. I was actually, when I was in the process of looking for a new phone, it's like, I like you more now, Dahlia. But yeah, I was actually considering getting one of the newer OnePluses, but I don't know. I'm at the point where I don't want to have to learn something new. I guess I'm a boomer now, so.
And also the same as going from being a blue chat bubble to a green chat bubble by chat. Like I don't know if I can handle that.
I use the iPhone less and less. I haven't even had. I got my Verizon plan 2 years ago. I don't even have a phone there anymore. I just use it for Wi-Fi. It's kind of a waste. I'm actually eyeing. I like the light phone or something like that I can just put together myself. I probably try. And next one is more likely to be the light phone or something I put together than an iPhone. I think because I don't use it that much.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Boot Disc does with his phone that he's building. He's doing one with a hyperpixel 4-inch screen and a Pi 4, and if I remember correctly, he's doing the voice over IP with LTE So it would just use like an app to make calls and whatnot. So it looks like it's going to be pretty cool. I don't know if he's still working on it or not, but it's one of the cooler projects. So, yeah. So has anybody else got anything they want to add or?
Okay, one more thing that I want to show that I've been working on for like 2 weeks, I think. I started doing needlepoint work and I made it to match my keyboard.
Bless this
Oh my
board. I
God.
like that.
Okay,
That's
hold on,
adorable.
let me show it up.
All right.
Excellent likeness.
That's
All right.
great.
The purple and black.
That's perfect.
I'm
That
still
reminds me,
working on
Dahlia,
it.
have you seen Billy Rubin's needlepoint keycaps? Because that
It
seems
was
like it
so
would
crazy.
be, yeah, like it would be right up your alley with having both of those hobbies.
Yeah, she like I remember when she was showing off her needlepoint caps. That's actually what kind of like made me like go like, maybe I should make a keyboard related needlepoint thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so cool.
that's pretty cool. That'd be a pretty cool project for a 3D printer if you got one. Yeah.
I've been wanting to get into knitting, and I want to knit like a little cozy or like a doily or a bag or something for my keyboard.
A little sock.
Yeah.
I don't remember if anyone remembers. I know you'll remember, Aaron, but like the iPod socks from
Yes, I
that
actually
are forever old. I still have one somewhere, like a purple one. It's the
I
only
have
one
a
that
whole set of
survives.
them. They're somewhere. I actually saw them fairly recently when I was going through things in my basement. They're really
These
adorable.
were like bright colors, right? I think I had one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Was
have-
it? But I had the iPod Nano, the black one that was like this. I
mhm.
think is there a chance that it had its own sock? I can't remember.
I don't know if it ever had its own sock. It would fit in the other sock, but I think it
Yeah.
would flip out. Like those socks were
Yeah,
meant to stretch over the
it,
iPod.
it actually was like just the right size that it would hold on a little bit because I had the Generation 1 Nano. That was my first iPod, and I loved the socks. So, yeah.
Maybe it was
It
off
did.
I
market.
have no clue what these things are.
No, they're just like you said, like a little like knit. Like if you take like a tube sock and just cut off like maybe the top like I don't know, like 4 inches or so, and you just sew across the bottom. That was essentially it. And it was just like a case for, like your iPod back then. But I mean, I used it for my phone for a while. You could make something like that for your keyboards, just like a really big, key sock.
It's like I have sewn together like little keyboard bags, but I just thought of like knitting one,
Oh, I thought that was a Nintendo Switch at first.
It's a bag for the keyboard, but I don't really use it, so it's just. But that's what it does. Carries a keyboard.
Fancy.
Actually, I end up using more. Put this one just out of 2 T-shirts from Goodwill. Just got 2 T-shirts and sew them together, and I end up using that as a desk mat sometimes. Like if the desk is not clean or whatever, I just put that and use it as a desk mat. It's more useful because that one has all these like weird shapes, so you cannot really
It's not
type
flat.
on it. Yeah, it's not comfortable. So I I'm not using that one.
These are the ones that I've like made for my little things, and then I made like a little pocket inside too. I just like sewn in there. It's like made out of fleece and stuff, so it doesn't scratch up.
Oh, so the keyboard is warm.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect for the winter months.
Butry
It's not
says the
amazing.
closest thing he's ever owned to an Apple product was the Motorola Sliver with iTunes. I haven't thought of those phones in forever. I had the Razer V3i, I want to say it was, that had like 50 songs you could put on it from iTunes, was like the hard limit. I thought that was like the coolest thing.
I remember when Steve Jobs was like demoing that, and he was so clearly very pissed that he was even doing the demo because like the product wasn't working that well, and I think they had just announced the Nano at that time, so like he was like, this is kind of like cutting into my thunder, and like he was just like, it's really fun to watching him get slightly irritable while also like he's supposed to be really friendly and gregarious.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we could probably call it a stream. We're approaching the 1.5 hour mark. So thank you all for being on here, Aaron. I really appreciate you coming on. He just joined our Discord, so if you want to chat with him about any of his projects, he's in there. Dahlia, as always, thank you as well. I posted a link to your YouTube, MSG. It's always good to have you. And I do have one announcement from the future on. So from don't know how.
A cliffhanger. It's a season finale. Okay. No, you'll have to wait until after the summer for the end of the sentence.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger for next time. But from going from here on out, we're not going to be having our streams on Thursdays anymore. We're going to be doing them on Sunday, maybe a little bit earlier. I don't really know the exact time, but we'll post about that in the Discord in the coming weeks. So remember, from now on, technical difficulties are on Sunday. So
seems like the perfect day.
Right.
Yep. So with that, we'll call it a stream.
Right.
So have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Yeah. Bye.